Hello fellow Clashers, my name is Kairos Time, and it is time to clash. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mega Knight 2v2 Double Elixir Draft Challenge. Whew! And we're going to break that down so that you know everything you need to know to win, and also have some fun along the way. Hope you enjoy! Thank you so much for jumping on. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mega Knight Challenge in several different aspects to try and give you the best tips to be able to do it. First of all, we're going to talk about some changes to the 2v2 tier list that I've made in the past, specifically catered to this challenge, so you know which cards are the best and which ones are the better ones to draft. We're also going to be doing some gameplay tips. We're going to talk about the team mindset when it comes to 2v2 and how you can play and overcome playing with people that maybe aren't as skilled or maybe on a tilt. And then finally we're going to be covering my drafts that we had. Okay, so for those of you that may be new to my channel and don't know this, what I do is I do some tier lists for several different metas. I recently did a 2v2 tier list, and it was made specifically for the ladder because that's where the majority of 2v2 matches happen, but right now this is challenge, so there's some changes here, but I also wanted to kind of make some changes and go over some good cards to draft when you're actually playing this challenge, so that you can have the best deck. Part of this challenge really is just drafting the best deck. I can't even tell you how many times I've won because my team just did a better job at drafting than the enemy team. Okay, so first off, there are the Elixir Heavies, the really expensive cards. These are really great cards to draft, and I put them in what I consider to be the best order. Okay, so we have the P.E.K.K.A. I think is the best. I think if you can get a P.E.K.K.A., there's so many heavy Elixir troops, really big tanks, that the P.E.K.K.A. is just a beast in this challenge. So the P.E.K.K.A. is really great. Golem, it was pretty close between the Golem and the Mega Knight, but if you had to choose between the two of them, I think unless there was something special with the deck, I'd go with the Golem. Golem pushes are just very difficult to stop, even when you do have plenty of Elixir to spare. And then we also have the Mega Knight, great defensive card, very heavy splash unit. Obviously you're going to want to pick him. Then we have the Inferno Dragon and the Three Musketeers, or not the Inferno Dragon, the Lava Hound. So the Lava Hound is a really great, really expensive tank. It's great to have the Lava Hound because of how good it does at just tanking damage, and it also requires air responses, or anti-air responses, and that's a really great option. Then the Three Musketeers. Now the Three Musketeers, there are going to be lots of heavy spells in this, but with how quickly you're cycling, Three Musketeers actually work really well. They also have they require a specific type of counter to be countered, and so I think that they're really a great option, I think, if you do have the chance to draft them. Then we have the Royal Giant and the Giant Skeleton. Now Royal Giant, I put him at the last of the tanks, with the exception of the Giant Skeleton. If you had to choose between any of the tanks and the Royal Giant, I would go with the other tank. Possibly even a balloon over the Royal Giant. The Royal Giant's not that great. Giant Skeleton he really depends on the deck that you're drafting and whether or not you want that kind of stop all defense with that Giant Skeleton. But overall a good option to select if you have to choose him between, like, I don't know, the Skeleton Army or something like that. Next, we have direct damage spells. These are huge. The Rocket, Lightning, Poison, Fireball, they're all so good in this mode. I think that the Rocket and the Lightning are better than Poison and the Fireball, but when it comes to deciding between Rocket and Lightning or Poison and Fireball, it really depends on the deck that you have, the cards that you have given to your opponent, the cards that your teammate has given to your opponent, and vice versa. So definitely some great cards. You want to take these whenever you can. If you have to choose between Zap and Lightning, go Lightning. Unless there's just one, unless you have a specific draft selection that requires something different. Then we also have cards that require special counters, okay? So we have Sparky, Inferno Dragon, and then the Inferno Tower. All of these require specific counters, usually the Electro Wizard, the Zap, oh, and I forgot the Lightning, but that would also be included in there. These cards are all really great cards to draft because the Electro Wizard and the Zap and Lightning do a good job at countering these special counter type cards, but then also if you have a Sparky, it's less likely that your opponent is going to have a way to deal with Sparky because it requires a specific type of card. And if you can draft so that they don't have that card, that's even better. We also have the Princess, Goblin Barrel, and the Dark Goblin. These are all weak to log, and so these are good counters. These are good cards to select. especially because they require the log. I would prefer the princess, and then as the first, if you had to pick between the princess and dark goblin. But then the goblin barrel is really great because it's unlikely that your opponent's going to have the log, and it's just working so well, especially with all these really heavy tanks. Then we also have the three musketeers, I talked about them, and then also the balloon. The balloon requires an air response, and as such, the balloon actually is really successful in this 2v2 challenge from what I noticed. I played several matches, and the balloon was really a great card to select if you have to, or if you have the option to, because it does a good job at pressuring your opponent's air defense troops. So great option right there. Then we also have Mega Knight counters. Now there's guaranteed somebody's going to have the Mega Knight, and a lot of times multiple people actually have the Mega Knight in this challenge. So as such, you want to take Mega Knight counters. It doesn't matter if they have the Mega Knight or you have the Mega Knight. You want those counters, because if you take them and you also have the Mega Knight on your side, it's less likely that your opponent is going to have the counters to the Mega Knight, and that can put you in some great situations. I've had tons of 3 crowns where we just drafted according to countering the Mega Knight, and they just couldn't stop the Mega Knight, or we were able to totally slam their Mega Knight down. Really good. So cards like the Mini P.E.K.K.A, the Knight, and also the Ice Golem. Now there were other ones that I have mentioned a little bit earlier, you know, obviously like the P.E.K.K.A and Inferno Tower, Inferno Dragon, cards like that. A lot of air troops as well do a good job at countering the Mega Knight, so those are good to draft. Just make sure you're paying attention to that and thinking about that while you're drafting. Now, as far as some gameplay tips, hover your cards. Do this. Just hover your card all the time. I'm the kind of player that actually really likes to just have my finger just ready to drop wherever. I don't like my finger to be in the way. But in 2v2, if you can hover your cards and show your teammate what you have, that is such a big advantage over your opponents. Also, it's really important to support your teammate in a lot of different ways. So a supported push is always stronger than a non-supported push. But obviously, you're gonna have some teammates that maybe do some dumb stuff. Like I had a teammate earlier try to do like a knight, or a prince push with nothing to support it, and I was like, well, I don't have anything really good. Just if they're trying to go crazy like that, just let them do their thing and try and play a little bit more defensively, and hopefully you can catch them on the offense. But support your teammate. If they have a Hog Rider or a decent push that looks like it would be worth supporting, do it, because a supported push is always stronger than a non-supported push. As well, make sure you are watching your teammate's hand. If you press your finger on their name, it will show you the 4 cards in their hand. And there are so many times where I'll look at that, and let's say I have the giant skeleton and my teammate has a goblin barrel. Well, what I'll do is I'll see there and I'm like, oh, he has a goblin barrel. I'll hold my giant skeleton right at the bridge so he knows, oh, I'm ready to tank for your goblin barrel. I'll drop it, and then he drops the goblin barrel, and all of a sudden we have a really great push, simply because we were looking at each other's hand. This happens all the time. So important when you're playing 2v2. One thing I wanted to talk about is overcommitting. This is the biggest thing that I see people make mistakes with when it comes to 2v2, is either overcommitting on offense or overcommitting on defense. One example of overcommitting on offense might be in this challenge. I saw it all the time, where you have a really big push building up, and they decide to defend with a giant skeleton, or they have the rocket in their hand, or the fireball, or poison, or whatever. And because of that, you give them so much value, because you're just going into one massive push, and then they can stop that, and then it's over. Executioner, tornadoes, that kind of things like that. You're less likely to see that combination in this challenge, but this goes for any 2v2 matches. Also, overcommitting on defense. I see this happen all the time, where somebody will, or the teammate will put up like or the opponents will put up kind of a scary push, maybe something fast with like an ice golem and a balloon or something like that, and both players just like throw a bunch of stuff on the arena, and they spend so much elixir focusing on that their opponents are able to rush the other lane, and they don't have any elixir to defend against that. I see this happen all the time, so make sure that you are not overcommitting. play a little bit more defensively, try and take your time and make calculated decisions. This brings me up to another point. If you see your opponent going on overcommitting on defense, split pushes are a really great thing in 2v2, and it's also really great, and it helps you to try and apply pressure because it's a lot easier to stop one big push than it is to stop two medium-sized pushes going down different lanes, because of cards like the Giant Skeleton or the Rocket or Poison, and as such, sometimes it's a really great idea just to let one push go on one side and go down the other side. Obviously that's not something you should always be doing, but look for those opportunities to do a split push if you have that option to do so. Sometimes even just a minor down the other lane, just so you can get some chip damage. That can be the difference between losing and winning. Also, take your time drafting. You have plenty of time to draft your cards. I've never felt pressed at all to finish drafting my cards. In fact, a lot of times we finish the draft when there are 20 seconds left over. It's going to be very beneficial for you and your teammate if you are paying attention to each other's drafted cards. Obviously you can't communicate with each other, but you can at least look at each other's drafted cards and make decisions accordingly. So take your time. There's not a rush. Also, when you're playing in this challenge, it's very important to space out your troops, especially on defense. It's very easy for cards like the Rocket and Fireball and Poison, and lots of splash cards as well, like the Mega Knight, do a good job at just getting rid of tons of troops altogether. So you want your cards to be spread out so that it's less likely that they'll be able to get value on that. That's a huge gameplay tip when it comes to this. Now let's talk a little bit about the team mindset. I've actually considered doing like a 2v2 team mindset video itself, so we're just going to go over this quickly. Sportsmanlike conduct, okay? Don't BM your teammate ever, because they're just going to play worse if you do it. Also, don't BM your opponents, guys. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir because you guys are so awesome, but BMing your opponent is just going to make people more frustrated at the game, and you don't want that. You want to have some fun. This is a fun challenge, so enjoy it. Also, own the losses. You will get mad and frustrated and rage quit and go on a tilt if you blame every one of your losses on your teammate. You absolutely will. Own up to your losses. Say, you know what? I'm going to own up to that. That was my mistake. Even if you don't feel like you made a mistake, don't blame your opponent, because you will tilt if you do. It's also important for you to cover your team's mistakes, your team members' mistakes. If they are really going on the offense and trying to go crazy, maybe just play a little bit more defensively. A defensive gameplay in 2v2 often wins over a very offensive one. This is a really great way to think about this. Go for the win, not for the star. And what I mean by that is you don't need to be the star player of a match. You just need to win. And so let your teammate, a lot of times you'll end up playing with people that just want to be amazing, and that's cool and that's great, but you'll win if you just focus on winning and not so much on who made the right choices and things like that. There's some times where you have to like really quickly think on your feet, like if your teammate, if you have a Goblin Barrel coming down the lane and you both throw a log, okay, cool, whatever. But a lot of times people like to jump. It's a very reflexive game, and so they like to quickly get into things. So just be a little bit more calm, go for the win, not for the star. Also, cherish the fun. This is a blast of a challenge. Yes, it is hard. Yes, there's a lot of randomness to it. No, you cannot control every outcome of every single match because you can't pick your cards, or you can't pick a deck, you can't pick your teammate, you can't pick what your opponents are drafting for you. There's so much that's out of your control, so if you take some losses, it's really okay. This challenge is so much fun, and it's really fantastic to be able to get 10 gems, or get like a legendary chest and some epics and some other cards along the way for 10 gems. And even if you have to spend more, 5 times, 10 times, just have some fun with it, and it really is a blast. Let's go ahead and jump now into some of the drafts that I did for my challenge along the way, so that you can kind of see some of the things that I think about when it comes to drafting for this challenge. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start out with the final replay of this, and the reason why is because we did a really great job at drafting this deck, and then the last match, I'm actually not even going to show you the last match because it was just pitiful. Like, we just smashed them because we just drafted so well. So here we have the Bandit and the Heal. The Bandit is the obvious choice here. Heal is a very gimmicky card, and it can work in 2v2. In fact, I had a teammate pick Heal, and it worked really, really well. But the Bandit requires specific responses that people typically don't want to draft in this challenge because of the Mega Knight. And she does a great job at synergizing with the Mega Knight, and can even sometimes act as a good Mega Knight defense. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Bandit there. Next we have the Electro Wizard and the Hog Rider. Now normally in challenges you want to draft, or in drafts you want to try and draft the win condition. However, the Electro Wizard is an incredible offense and defense and support card, and whatever you need the Electro Wizard to be, he will be that for you. The Electro Wizard is amazing. So the Hog Rider also doesn't seem to do that well in this challenge from what I've noticed. There's been a few good Hog Riders that I've played in this challenge, but a lot of times it just gets stopped because you have so much elixir. Hog Rider normally shines in one-time elixir anyway, so I went ahead and selected the Electro Wizard in this type of situation. Then we have the Mega Knight and the Giant. Obvious choice is the Mega Knight. Giant's a good card. He's a big tank guy, and he's good, but the Mega Knight is just so strong. Now we have the choice between the Fireball and the Log. Fireball is honestly the better option. Now I was really quick to draft those cards in there. There weren't any very difficult decisions to really make. But let's go ahead and take a look at the cards that he drafted. My teammate actually selected to keep the Giant instead of the Golem. I actually think he should have kept the Golem, but that's fine. He also chose the Prince instead of the Guards, which I don't think makes very much sense at all, because the Guards do a good job at countering the Prince. But he does also have, the Guards do not do anything against the Mega Knight, so that's a good option. He went ahead and selected the Balloon, which I said earlier is a really great option, over the Bandit, and I think that was the right call. Then he chose the Mega Knight as well. So we both have the Mega Knight right here, and and that was a total stomp. 3 crown right there. Let's go ahead and watch this, this draft as well. So, Splash generally does a lot better in this mode than single point damage does, and so the obvious choice here is the Executioner. I'll go ahead and select that, and then we have between the Mega Knight and the Ice Golem. Now the Ice Golem does counter the Mega Knight, but the Mega Knight just offers so much more value in this challenge overall anyways, so I went ahead and selected it. You'll notice that my teammate actually chose the Mega Knight over the Giant as well. Great decision right there. Now we have the choice between Dark Goblin and the Fireball. I don't remember exactly what I chose, but I'm pretty sure it's the Fireball because that just makes more sense. Then I have a choice between the Freeze and the Three Musketeers. Now, Freeze is kind of, once again, a gimmicky card, and I've seen great value out of it, but the Three Musketeers are a great option to draft in this challenge. So I actually went ahead and selected the Three Musketeers, and it also works really great because I have the Fireball. Now, I thought, in that situation, it was a win-win for me. If they had the Three Musketeers, I could have Fireballed it and gotten value. Or I could have kept the Three Musketeers myself and forced them to use something else. Now, my teammate, I should have drafted a little bit quicker, but he drafted to give the Lightning to my opponent at the same time, which is a little bit of a difficult, that puts us into some difficult positions in this actual move, but he does actually select the Minion Horde, and I have the Fireball, and they have the Lightning, and the Lightning doesn't do anything against the Minion Horde. Well, it gets rid of 3 of them, but that's not great value at all. And so I'm actually feeling pretty good because we kind of have like a lightning bait type of situation, or a fireball bait, and they're going to have to really use their lightning very smart to try and do this. So yeah, we ended up winning that, at 2-1. I ended up losing in this match, and let's go ahead and watch the drafts. Yeah, so Lightning here is obviously the right call. I go ahead and select the Lightning. My teammate chooses the Rocket, and he chooses the Mega Knight, which is good. Now, I actually choose the Balloon over the Royal Giant because the Royal Giant, almost any card can counter the Royal Giant, or at least do damage to it. But not every card can deal damage to the Balloon, so I go ahead and select the Balloon. Now I have the choice between the Dark Goblin and the Princess. And the thing that really killed us in this match, honestly, and I know I said earlier, don't blame your opponent. I'm not blaming my opponent. I'm just saying, he could have drafted a little bit better than the Expo. Even the Spear Goblins would have been a little bit better than that. In fact, or just draft the Expo and not play it. But he ended up playing it as frequently as he could, so that was rough. Now in this situation, I actually drafted, I picked the Musketeer over the Wizard, and I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that I could have done in this challenge, is choosing the wizard is generally better than the musketeer because it does a better job at doing splash damage, and the wizard actually does a very underrated amount of damage overall. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more draft. I ended up losing that one. And that happens when you're playing. I did not support my teammates' pushes as well as I could have, so could have done a little bit better with that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this. The Dark Goblin is the better choice. It's really easy to counter Spear Goblins, and the Dark Goblin requires a specific type of response, so I go ahead and select that. Then I have the choice between the Golem and the Royal Giant. Definitely the Golem, absolutely. And then we also do have between the minions and then the archers. Now in this situation, archers don't do a good job at countering the Mega Knight, and the minions do. So I'm going to go ahead and select the minions. Then we also do have the choice between the log and the arrows. And I actually think about this for a little bit because I'm like, well, I have the minions, and if I give them the arrows, well, then I also have the Dark Goblin. So honestly, in this situation, I think that the log is a better option. But if I remember, I actually took the arrows. Yeah, I took the arrows right there to try and make sure that my minions could actually deal some damage, and it actually worked out really well in this match. We'll go ahead and watch this one match, show you guys some 2v2 gameplay. And I wanted to show this one because I just want to cover some specific points that we talked about. So he chose the Bull over the Giant. Good option. He chose Sparky, and he chose the Electro Wizard. Now I like how he did that. He chose the Electro Wizard and the Sparky, and the Electro Wizard does a good job of countering the Sparky, and as such, our opponents can have a difficult time stopping it. He chose the Mega Knight instead of the Ice Golem, and that's really great. In fact, you'll see right here, I actually say well played to my teammate for choosing the Sparky and the Electro Wizard. It really is just such a good situation to put yourself into. Because it requires such a specific response. Now here I'm gonna go ahead and place this Ice Golem or Ice Wizard in the back. He ends up placing that Sparky right there. We're just gonna ignore those goblins. Oh, actually no, we don't. Been a while since I watched this. Been a while since I played it. So he ends up placing down those Elite Barbarians back there. We've got a Sparky Golem push coming up right here, and here I have the arrows for their minion horde. Thank goodness I selected the arrows. It actually worked out really well. Kind of funny that I told you that I thought the other option was better, but that's okay. Then we got a Goblin Barrel coming down right there. That requires a specific response. We could have had a little bit better placement there, but here, see this Sparky is just totally clearing things because it requires a specific response that balanced decks typically have. They typically have a good response to Sparky, but when it comes to draft, very difficult. So here we've got a massive push going on right here. We got a Golem down that side. They've got the Mega Knight coming down there. I'm supporting this the best that I can. Then they have this massive push that's coming up over to here, and I'm pretty confident that we can actually just win this by 3-crowning it. My teammate ends up placing, I was thinking about placing the arrows, but my teammate was hovering the Mega Knight at that point, so I knew that we were going to be able to stop that, and this is going to be it for that match. Very great match, great gameplay overall when it came to me and my teammate. There was a lot of hovering our cards. So much of that was happening in that match, and that's one reason why we played so well together. Most players know how to play the game, and they want to play well, and so you just need to give them a little bit of communication, and you can play really well with it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section below, and check out my other content. For now, this is Carol's time ticking by, and we will see you in the arena.